Before she was Madame Nyako the teacher, she was Efua, and once she was loved. In her youth, Efua was a woman of rare beauty, tall, dark-skinned, and always wrapped in rich kente or crisp lace. She was married to one of the richest bankers in Accra. People envied her life, her house, her car, her sparkle. But behind the gates and glass windows, the truth simmered. She couldn't have children, and her husband, once sweet as ripe mango, turned sour. He began coming home late, then not at all. One rainy evening, Efua walked into their bedroom and found her husband in bed with a younger woman. He didn't flinch. He simply pointed to her and said, "You're just a name on paper now." That night, Efua left with only her handbag, and something broke inside her. No one saw her for 7 years. Some say she wandered into the forest regions of the Volta. Others claimed she studied with the witches of Akwamu. But one thing was clear. When she returned, she was no longer Efua the banker's wife. She was Madame Nyako, and she had become something else entirely. She wore white clothes every day, but her presence felt dark. Her eyes didn't blink enough. Her voice was soft, but it always made the hair on people's arms stand. She moved to a quiet town called Kwabeng, far from the city. There, she introduced herself to the local school as a trained teacher. The headmaster was desperate to fill a teaching position, so he hired her immediately. No paperwork, no background check. She insisted on teaching Class 4B. She brought her own chalkboard. The board was strange, too wide, too black. It shimmered like something underwater, and it made a faint humming sound when no one spoke. She mounted it herself using nails that looked like old gold. No one questioned it. After all, she seemed professional, elegant, and in her first week, discipline returned to the class. The children were silent, obedient. Their handwriting improved. They all passed their quizzes. Parents praised her. The headmaster called her a miracle. But something was wrong. Yor Boteng, once the loudest boy in class, now stared forward like a zombie. Abena, known for her giggles, hadn't laughed in days. Daniel, who used to dance during break, now shuffled like his joints had rusted. Then the disappearances began. First Yor, then Abena, then 3 more. The school said they had moved to Accra, but their families knew better. Their bags were still at home, their toothbrushes untouched. Kukua, a quiet girl with sharp eyes, noticed more than most. Her grandmother, a respected herbalist, had always told her, not all evil comes with claws. Some wear perfume. Kukua had a bad feeling about Madame Nyako, and an even worse feeling about her chalkboard. She began watching. Every day after class, Madame Nyako stood in front of the board, whispering, and the board pulsed like a heartbeat. One afternoon, Kukua saw it, a face. A child's face stretched across the blackboard's surface, eyes wide, mouth open, but no sound. Then another, then another. The souls of the missing students, trapped inside the board. Kukua ran home and told her grandmother. The old woman spat into the fire. "She's feeding on them," she whispered. "The board is a gate. She was rejected by love and now takes her revenge on innocence." She gave Kukua a powder made from charcoal, ginger, red clay, and holy ash. "If she calls you to the board," the grandmother said, "throw this." The next day the air felt thick. Madame Nyako wore a white lace blouse and a blue skirt. Her hair was tied in a tall bun, stiff like a crown. Her eyes looked even greener. "Kukua," she said sweetly, "come solve this for us on the board." Kukua stood slowly. As she walked, the board began to hum. She saw the faces again, pushing against the surface. The board whispered her name. "Kukua! Kukua!" As she lifted the chalk, Madame Nyako stepped behind her. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "The board remembers those who matter." Just as Kukua's fingers touched the surface, she threw the powder. There was a blinding flash. The board screamed. Not the teacher, the board itself. Children's voices wailing, crying, pleading. The trapped souls burst out like steam. The classroom walls shook, windows cracked. The board split down the middle. Madame Nyako screamed. Her skin began to peel like paper, revealing a blackened, burned face underneath, eyes glowing with hatred and pain. "You ruined it," she hissed. "I gave them structure, obedience. They were mine." Then she disintegrated into ash, gone. The students collapsed. Some began to cry. Others were too stunned to speak, but they were alive. The headmaster resigned that same week. The school closed for a month. No one ever found the remains of the chalkboard. Some say the wind carried it back to where it came from. Others believe it still whispers in an abandoned room at night. Years later, in another quiet town, a new teacher arrived. She wore lace. She spoke softly. She brought her own chalkboard. And her students, they were very quiet.